Tom asked me to report on the book published by Princeton University Press in 2016. The book is C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, a Biography, written by George M. Marsden. Now, I've been a longtime fan of Marsden, who is Professor Emeritus and former chair of the History Department at Notre Dame. 15 years ago, I had the privilege of taking a week-long 10-person seminar that he taught. And I have been an even longer fan of C.S. Lewis, who was professor of Renaissance and medieval literature at Oxford for 30 years before shifting to Cambridge to chair their department until he died in 1963. This book is a part of a series that Princeton University Press is co-publishing with Oxford. The 30-book series for the general public is entitled The Lives of Great Religious Books, of which 24 are now published, which brings us to this particular one with its curious title, C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, a Biography. Now, one note, the contemporary use of the word mere means small or slightest, and even with a touch of disdain. But if I had been a medieval scholar, I would have known that mere has an ancient classic meaning expressing the central or core essence. At Princeton University Press explains on their website, Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis's eloquent defense of the Christian faith, originated as a series of BBC radio talks, broadcast during the darkest days of World War II. Here is the story of the extraordinary life and afterlife of this influential and inspiring book. George Marsden describes how Lewis gradually went from being an atheist to a committed Anglican, famously converting to Christianity in 1931 after conversing into the night with his friends J.R.R. Tolkien and Hugh Dyson, and how his plain-spoken case for Christianity went on to become one of the most beloved spiritual books of all time. Marsden begins by describing Lewis's life during World War I, when he was one of a cluster of officers who trained and were sent to the French front together. But he was the only one of the 5 friends who survived. The experience of war left Lewis a bitterly disillusioned atheist, like many other post-war young intellectuals. As an inspiring poet, he wrote, "Come, let us curse our master ere we die, for all our hopes in endless ruin lie. The good is dead, let us curse God Most High." During the next decade, Lewis traveled from atheism to agnosticism to theism, largely due to the vigorous conversations about truth, myth, and meaning with a circle of friends at Oxford. As Marsden describes, one of Lewis's most illuminating breakthroughs came when his Oxford friend Owen Barfield convinced him of the folly of chronological snobbery. The uncritical acceptance of the intellectual climate common to our own age and the assumption that whatever has gone out of date is on that account discredited. Having recognized that it was snobbish to discard the past, this freed Lewis to look at it freshly. And he explained to a friend, the story of Christ is simply a true myth, a myth working on us in the same way as others, but with this tremendous difference, that it really happened. Years later, during the Second World War, the BBC invited Lewis to give radio talks to encourage the troops. His first talk started in August 1941, immediately became popular. He carries you along," wrote a commentator, "as a good companion walking down a road. It's like listening to a benevolent uncle trying to explain the laws of cricket to his nephew." Good luck. Given the success, the BBC asked Lewis to do a second series, which gathered an even larger audience. After that, the BBC begged him to do a third 6-part series. These radio talks, aired between 1941 and 44, were published in 1952 as one book, Mere Christianity. In the next few chapters, Marsden discusses critical responses to Lewis's book, having both detractors and admirers. His surprising strong reception in America, Lewis was even pictured on the front cover of Time magazine in September 1947. The widespread global appeal of Mere Christianity within all 3 branches, Roman Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox. And since 2001, Mere Christianity has sold more than 3.5 million copies in English and has been translated into at least 36 languages. In the final chapter, Marsden distills 7 compelling insights pertaining to the ongoing appeal of Mere Christianity, such as Lewis identifies timeless truths as opposed to the culturally bound. He uses common words from the vernacular to connect with his audience. He remains focused on mere Christianity, digging into the core, but skillfully avoiding rabbit holes. Moreover, Mere Christianity does not offer cheap grace. Lewis exposes the sin and evil, that they are the foundational problem, and having a personal relationship with God is the fulfilling solution. Finally, Marsden suggests that the lasting appeal of Mere Christianity is based on the luminosity of the gospel message itself. As for me, I had the sheer joy of not only reading Marsden's book, but also rereading Mere Christianity, especially his chapter about nice versus new, which had been a spiritual catalyst for me in my college days. I hope each of you get the opportunity to read Mere Christianity as well as Marsden's fine book. And by the way, my wife and I brought a dozen copies of Mere Christianity that are in the back of the room. If you haven't read it and would like to have one, just take one, please. And now, let me leave you with this thought. Even though C.S. Lewis died in 1963, I have been told that he may be visiting with us today, even at this reunion event. Stay tuned.